Someone is secretly buying a diamond ring for you. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Not in a distant future that never arrives. The strange part is that while you're listening to these words, you may already feel that something is changing around you. A conversation that hasn't happened yet. A message that hasn't appeared yet. A meeting that seems ordinary but will become unforgettable. And before this message ends, you will understand why. Because this is not simply a story about a diamond ring. It is a story about a decision. A promise. A hidden emotion that has been growing in silence. And the name connected to it is closer than you think. Stay with me, because the final revelation changes everything. There is a person who thinks about you far more often than you realize. They have never fully confessed it. They have never completely revealed what is happening inside their heart. Sometimes they appear calm. Sometimes distant. Sometimes they act as if nothing is happening. Yet behind closed doors, their mind returns to you again and again. You became the thought they couldn't escape. The memory they couldn't erase. The possibility they couldn't ignore. And this is where the story becomes shocking. Because while you have been wondering whether someone truly cares about you, another person has been wondering whether they are good enough for you. Read that again in your mind. While you questioned their feelings, they questioned their worth. While you doubted the connection, they feared losing it. That fear changed everything. It pushed them toward a decision. A decision involving a ring. A symbol. A commitment. A future they secretly imagine with you. Now listen carefully. The person connected to this message is not necessarily the loudest voice in your life. They may not be the most obvious choice. In fact, many people overlook them completely. But their feelings are deeper than anyone realizes. They notice small details. The way you speak. The way you laugh. The way your energy changes when you're excited. The dreams you mention casually and forget about later. They remember those details. Because people remember what matters to them. And you matter. Far more than you know. There was a moment when this person almost revealed everything. A moment when they nearly told you the truth. Their heart was racing. Their thoughts were clear. They were ready. But fear stopped them. Fear whispered. What if they don't feel the same? What if I lose them forever? What if I'm too late? So they remained silent. And silence became their hiding place. But silence cannot hide feelings forever. Eventually emotions become too heavy. Eventually the truth demands attention. Eventually the heart grows tired of pretending. That moment is approaching. And it is approaching faster than they expected. You see, something unexpected has happened recently. This person has started imagining a future. Not a fantasy. Not a daydream. A future. A real one. And every version of that future includes you. When they think about success, you're there. When they think about happiness, you're there. When they think about building a life worth living, you're there. You became part of the picture. Part of the plan. Part of the dream. And dreams that survive for a long time often become intentions. Intentions become actions. Actions change destinies. That is why the ring matters. Because the ring is not the beginning. It is the result. The result of feelings growing stronger than fear. The result of affection becoming certainty. The result of someone deciding they no longer want to imagine life without you. But there is another detail you need to hear. This person has been observing signs. Small coincidences. Unexpected moments. Conversations that reminded them of you. Songs that reminded them of you. Places that reminded them of you. The more they tried to ignore it, the more impossible it became. Your presence followed them everywhere. Not physically. Emotionally. And eventually they stopped resisting. They accepted what their heart had been saying all along. That you are different. That you are special. That losing the opportunity to be with you would become their greatest regret. Now let me tell you something even more surprising. The name connected to this message carries a powerful clue. The first letter has been appearing repeatedly around you. Maybe in a notification. Maybe on a sign. Maybe in a random conversation. Maybe somewhere you didn't expect. Because sometimes life places clues in plain sight. Not to reveal everything. But to prepare you. To make you pay attention. To help you recognize what is approaching. And what is approaching is a turning point. The kind of turning point people remember years later. The kind of moment that divides life into before and after. Before the truth. After the truth. Before the confession. After the confession. Before the ring. After the ring. Now imagine something. Imagine this person standing in front of a display of diamond rings. Their eyes moving from one ring to another. Not searching for the most expensive one. Searching for the right one. Because in their mind, it isn't about money. It's about meaning. It's about finding something worthy of the person they cannot stop thinking about. You. And when that realization hits them completely, there will be no turning back. Because certainty is powerful. Once someone becomes certain about love, hesitation begins to disappear. That is exactly what is happening. Day by day. Moment by moment. The hesitation is shrinking. The courage is growing. The distance between silence and confession is becoming smaller. And something else is happening. They have started preparing. Maybe financially. Maybe emotionally. Maybe mentally. But preparation has begun. People only prepare for things they intend to do. And intentions reveal priorities. You are becoming their priority. Now here comes the revelation that nobody expects. The reason this person hasn't spoken yet isn't because they don't care. It's because they care too much. The possibility of losing you terrifies them. The possibility of hearing no keeps them awake. The possibility of arriving too late haunts them. Yet despite all those fears, their feelings continue growing. That is how they know it is real. Because real emotions survive obstacles. Real emotions survive uncertainty. Real emotion survives silence. And theirs have survived all three. Tonight. Tomorrow. Next week. Something begins moving. A conversation. A message. A sign. A moment that changes the direction of this story. And when it arrives, you will recognize it. Not because someone tells you. Because your intuition already knows. Part of you has sensed this for a long time. Part of you already knew someone was watching from a distance. Admiring. Hoping. Waiting. Wondering if the timing would ever be right. The timing is getting closer. Closer than before. Closer than they expected. Closer than you imagine. And now, the question everyone is waiting for. The name. The hidden clue. The shocking detail. Listen carefully. The person connected to this message is strongly linked to one of these initials. A. M. R. S. Or K. One of those letters carries extraordinary significance. If one instantly stood out in your mind, do not ignore that feeling. Because sometimes the heart notices what logic cannot explain. And sometimes a single letter becomes the beginning of an unforgettable story. Remember this. The ring itself is not the miracle. The miracle is being valued. Being chosen. Being loved enough that someone sees you as part of their future. That is what makes this story extraordinary. Somewhere, someone is imagining that future right now. Somewhere, someone is gathering courage. Somewhere, someone is preparing to stop hiding. And somewhere, someone is looking at a diamond ring while thinking about only one person. You. The question is no longer whether their feelings exist. The question is how much longer they can keep them secret. Not long. Not very long at all. Because every great love story reaches the moment when silence finally loses. And when that moment arrives, everything changes. The moment silence loses, everything changes. And that is exactly where this story continues. Because the person who has been hiding their feelings is reaching a point where pretending is becoming impossible. Every day they wake up with the same thought. Every night they go to sleep with the same question. What would happen if I finally told them? That question follows them everywhere. While they work. While they travel. While they sit alone. While they smile in conversations that have nothing to do with you. Your name keeps returning to their mind. Not because they are forcing it. Because it belongs there. And the more they try to focus on other things, the stronger the feeling becomes. There is something you don't know. This person has replayed certain memories involving you hundreds of times. A conversation. A smile. A glance. A moment that seemed ordinary to you but became unforgettable to them. You moved on from it. They didn't. They carried it with them. They studied it. They searched it for clues. They wondered if it meant something more. And eventually they realized something shocking. Their feelings weren't fading. They were growing. Now imagine what that realization feels like. Imagine discovering that the person occupying your thoughts is not leaving your heart. Imagine realizing that every attempt to forget only makes the connection stronger. That is where they are now. And it has changed the way they see the future. Because before, they were hoping. Now they are planning. There is a difference. Hope is uncertain. Plans are intentional. And when someone starts planning a future that includes you, everything becomes more serious. That is why the ring matters so much. Not because it sparkles. Not because it costs money. Not because it looks beautiful. Because it represents a decision. A decision that says, I don't want anyone else. A decision that says, I choose you. A decision that says, out of everyone I could imagine a future with, I imagine one with you. And that thought has become impossible for them to ignore. Now let me tell you about the turning point. Every love story has one. A moment where everything changes direction. A moment when hesitation becomes action. A moment when fear loses its power. For this person, that turning point arrived recently. Something happened. Maybe they saw you differently. Maybe they heard something that reminded them how important you are. Maybe they imagined losing you. Whatever it was, it shook them deeply. Because suddenly they realized something. Waiting forever is not an option. Opportunities disappear. People move on. Time changes everything. And the thought of losing you became more painful than the thought of taking a risk. That realization transformed them. It lit a fire inside them. The kind of fire that creates courage. The kind of courage that inspires action. The kind of action that changes lives. Now here's where the story becomes even more fascinating. This person has started noticing competition. Not necessarily another romantic rival. But the possibility that someone else might recognize your value before they act. That possibility terrifies them. Because they know what you are worth. They know how rare you are. They know how difficult it is to find someone who makes them feel the way you do. And they understand something important. Rare things do not wait forever. Valuable opportunities do not remain available forever. The future does not pause for indecision. So they are beginning to move. Slowly. Carefully. But undeniably. Moving. Closer to a confession. Closer to honesty. Closer to revealing what they have hidden for so long. Now let's talk about something mysterious. The signs. Because there have been signs. More than they admit. Moments that feel impossible to explain. Times when they were thinking about you and suddenly your name appeared. Times when they wanted to contact you and unexpectedly heard something connected to you. Times when they wondered if they should move forward and received what felt like an answer. Coincidence after coincidence. Until coincidence stopped feeling like coincidence. Until it started feeling like direction. And once people believe they are being directed towards something, they become much harder to stop. That is exactly what is happening. The resistance is disappearing. The certainty is increasing. The dream is becoming real. Now imagine this. The person stands in front of a mirror. Alone. Thinking. Rehearsing conversations. Practicing words they haven't spoken yet. Trying to imagine your reaction. Trying to prepare for a moment that could change everything. They think about your smile. They think about your eyes. They think about the possibility that you might actually feel the same way. And that possibility keeps them going. Because hope is powerful. Especially when it is attached to love. There are nights when they cannot sleep. Not because something is wrong. Because something matters. You matter. The future matters. The choice matters. The ring matters. And the closer they get to making a move, the stronger those emotions become. Now here's another revelation. The person connected to this message has already imagined introducing you to important people in their life. Family. Friends. The people whose opinions matter most. That is not something people do casually. People only imagine that when feelings become serious. When affection becomes vision. When attraction becomes commitment. That is where they are. Beyond curiosity. Beyond infatuation. Beyond uncertainty. Entering a place where real decisions are made. And real futures are built. But there is still one obstacle. Fear. The last obstacle. The final barrier standing between silence and truth. The fear of vulnerability. The fear of exposing their heart. The fear of hearing an answer they do not want. Yet here is the beautiful part. Every day that passes makes fear weaker. Because emotions grow stronger than fear. Every memory makes fear weaker. Every dream makes fear weaker. Every thought of you makes fear weaker. And eventually there comes a day when the heart says, enough. Enough hiding. Enough waiting. Enough pretending. That day is approaching. You can almost feel it. The energy around this story is changing. Momentum is building. Events are moving. Pieces are aligning. And when all those pieces finally connect, the result will surprise even them. Because they are expecting one conversation. But that conversation may create an entirely new chapter of life. Now let's return to the name. Because the name carries power. The person connected to this message has a name that feels familiar even before it is spoken. A name connected to memories. A name connected to emotions. A name that creates a reaction inside you. And if one particular person appeared in your mind while listening to these words, pay attention. Not because it guarantees anything. But because intuition often notices patterns before the conscious mind does. Sometimes the heart whispers before reality speaks. Sometimes we sense an arrival before we see it. And sometimes we recognize a story before it fully unfolds. This may be one of those moments. Now imagine the future. Imagine receiving unexpected honesty. Imagine discovering that someone has felt this way for far longer than you realized. Imagine learning that while you were living your life, somebody was quietly building dreams around your presence in theirs. Imagine realizing that the ring was never about jewelry. It was about intention. About commitment. About courage. About choosing someone completely. That is why this message exists. Not to focus on a diamond. To focus on a decision. Because somewhere a decision is being made. A decision involving you. A decision that grows stronger every day. A decision that refuses to disappear. And the closer it gets, the harder it becomes to keep hidden. Very soon, a truth that has been locked away may finally come into the light. Very soon, a secret may stop being a secret. Very soon, a heart that has remained silent may finally speak. And when it does, the story that seemed impossible will suddenly make sense. The missed signs. The strange feelings. The unexpected clues. The recurring thoughts. All of it. Because sometimes the biggest surprises are not created overnight. They are created slowly. Quietly. Secretly. Until one day they are impossible to hide. And somewhere, at this very moment, someone is moving closer to that day. Closer to honesty. Closer to courage. Closer to you. And perhaps closer to the ring than anyone realizes.